Welcome to the Q4 2019 Storj Labs Town Hall. We have some exciting updates to share with you today. The first portion of the presentation is pre-recorded to ensure we can share the details without any technical difficulties. At the end of the presentation, we'll conduct our live Q&A. We usually receive around 20 questions in advance, and we expect that there will be more over the course of the presentation. You can send those to ask@storj.io, and we'll address them during the live part. In addition to this live stream, we'll also be placing the entire recording, including the questions, on our YouTube channel. We'll begin the presentation with a forward-looking statement. This document contains forward-looking statements about our product direction. The development, release, and timing of any features or functionality described for our products remains at the sole discretion of Storj Labs. The information herein is not a commitment to deliver any material, code, or functionality, and should not be relied upon in making purchase decisions. Our topics today are first an executive summary, an engineering update, the tardigrade ecosystem, token governance and compliance, and then finally community. After that, we'll be moving to the live Q&A. Our speakers today are Sean Wilkinson, Founder and Chief Strategy Officer, Ben Golub, Interim CEO and Executive Chairman. Catherine Johnson is our General Counsel, Vice President of Compliance and People Ops. JT Olio, VP of Engineering. John Gleason, VP of Operations. And Jocelyn Matthews, myself, Community Manager for Storj. We're going to start with an executive summary from Ben Golub.
Thank you, Jocelyn, and thanks to all of you for tuning in, and a big thanks to everybody in our community and in the company itself for all of your hard work over the past several months. This has been a really epic journey. It's a hard thing to launch a storage service. It's a very hard thing to launch a cloud storage service. To do an enterprise-grade cloud storage service that is decentralized has never been done before, and we are now on the cusp of doing that. Q4, as you may recall, we went into our second public beta, which was Pioneer 2, which was a functional freeze. We had production quality network performance. And throughout the course of that beta, we not only onboarded large numbers of users, we also did third-party audits to make sure that the system was working well. We announced our pricing. We finalized the first members of our OSPP program, our open source partner program. And we also signed a number of major partners and paying customers. Now that we have customers who are willing to pay us, of course, we want to have a service that they're willing to go on. And so very proud that this week we went into our pre-production launch. So we now have production code. This code has been frozen. We have let on not only a large number of paying customers, but everybody who is on our wait list. At this point, between now and our official production launch, it's just a matter of time. It's making sure that all of the customers that we're onboarding now are having a great experience, some final polish, making sure that the documentation is exactly where we want it to be. And so we believe that we're within a month of going into full production, and not only going into production, but going into production with levels of durability, performance, reliability that are have never been seen before. We're very excited that we are now going into production. It's a limited production with the paying customers that we have signed up now, as well as other members of our who are on our wait list. But these are now paying customers who are experiencing enterprise levels of durability and performance with economics that are rewarding for the customers and rewarding for our members of our community. What's left for us to do between now and production is simply to make sure that those customers are having a good experience, that any final kinks are worked out, that the documentation is up to speed, and then we're ready to go. And at that point, our number 1, 2, and 3 jobs will be getting customers onboarded and driving demand for the network. If you look at where we are right now as a network, I'll talk through a number of our qualification gates. We set some very high bars for ourselves in order to go into production. We talked about this in our last all-hands meeting, but let me talk through a few of these. Perhaps the most important is durability. There is no good storage service out there that doesn't lose data. And we want to make sure that anybody who uses our service has a high degree of confidence that the data they store with us will never be lost. We've been running for 8 months now. We now have over 50 million files on the system, and we have not lost a single one. Our goal for production is to be at least 9 nines of durability. We also want to make sure that when we have data with us, that you can get it whenever you want it. And so that's our retrievability metric. And that means that when the first time you try and download a file from us, you're able to do so successfully. Now, 9,995 times out of 10,000, you'll get your file on the first time, which we're very excited about. Our upload and download times are on par with or better than AWS. And that's true even with the at the 95th percentile. So all but the 5% slowest files. We've passed our goals in terms of a number of active nodes, and our node churn is very low, so that people who are on our system are not leaving the system. Not shown on here, but very important, is the average node has now been with us live for over 128 days, which means that we have a stable network that is meeting the needs of our customers and meeting the needs of our node operators. And finally, we have plenty of excess capacity for all of the demand that we see lining up. So again, very excited. Thanks to all of you for your work in getting us here. I'd now like to turn it over to JT.
Thanks, Ben. Next up, we have an engineering update with JT. JT Olio is our Vice President of Engineering. JT?
Thanks, Jocelyn. I'm excited to be here today to share with you more details about where we've come and where we're going. First slide I wanted to share was our development milestones timeline. We started the V3 development processes in sort of early 2018, and so we put together this timeline for Q4 of 2018. We've only had to change it in two ways since we originally had this timeline created. The first one is that we moved Voyager from Q4 of last year to Q1 of this year. We're really excited about our Voyager release. And the only other way we've had to change the timeline is the color blue is slightly darker. We're really proud of the fact that software estimation is a challenge, and we've had very little to change in terms of our ability to deliver on our V3 network. We're really excited about that. We wanted to talk about the white paper. In 2018, we published 90 pages of a white paper. And in 2020, we're releasing the first implementation of those plans. We almost have about 200,000 lines of Go specifically. We've had 72 contributors and 125 releases since April. You can be our 73rd contributor and help us to get to 200,000 lines of code. We've deviated from the white paper very little. We introduced graceful exit, which if you're a storage node operator, sure you've probably heard of on the forums. And we eliminated Kademlia, which ended up being a little more complicated and unnecessary than we thought it would be. So stay tuned for a white paper updated with these changes as we've had to make them. But we're very proud of the fact that we have not had to change the white paper very much. And the white paper has served as a fantastic roadmap. In the Q4 2018 town hall, we shared a graph of how our development process was building. And so I wanted to just sort of, for continuity, share the same graph again, except updated for now. We've continued to grow in terms of the size of the code base and the effort of what we've been working on. So we're really proud of where we've come from. It's been based on the efforts of tons of contributors. I'm not going to read all of these GitHub names of all of the different people who have contributed in some way to our project. I'm certain that we've missed a couple of people. Thank you to everyone who's contributed and helped to get us here. Really proud of the team, really proud of our community for helping us build this white paper to the place that it is. So thank you. We're launching production. And so what can you expect with production? Tardigrade users should expect a guaranteed enterprise level SLA. We're offering 9 nines of durability and 3 nines of availability or retrievability. We have S3 comparable performance, an intuitive web interface, and libraries and bindings. We're focusing on providing the optimal and best experience to our customers. We're devoted to freeing users to build without friction, and we want to give everyone the confidence that your data will be there when you want it. Ultimately, you're more likely to be hit by lightning than have data loss on the storage network. So then what to expect from 2020? So for 2020, it's going to bring a major new emphasis on the storage node operator experience. For 2018 and for 2019, we organized ourselves around implementing just the core basics of our white paper, just the bare necessities to make sure that the network was operational. And as some of the members of our community have certainly noticed, there are definitely some ergonomic things that would be useful to have in our user experience. And so for 2020, we're focused on going to market and growing the network. We're reorganizing our company to match our 2020 priorities. And so we're in the middle of a reorg right now, and we're staffing full teams to focus exclusively on the storage node operator experience, which is sort of it's a new thing for us to have a dedicated team focused on that. Expect to see a lot more on that front. The tardigrade user experience, durability, performance, scalability, security, and test automation. Definitely expect to see a lot more out of us in 2020. While we are getting to the place where we are at production level for a storage product, it's not the end of the roadmap of what we have left to build. So really excited about 2020. Stay tuned for some demos about what you can expect with what we have so far. Back to you, Jocelyn.
Thanks, JT. Next up, we have Tardigrade Ecosystem with John Gleason. John is our VP of Operations. John?
Thank you, Jocelyn. I could not be more excited to hear JT speak the words, "We're launching production." It was also really rewarding to see that we delivered everything we described in the white paper and more. So in the previous town hall, we announced that support was coming soon for a wide range of storage node platforms, new developer tools, bindings, and of course, improved documentation. I'm happy to say that we not only delivered a great platform, but we are also delivering a great set of tools for our storage node operators and developers that we announced in the town hall last time, and more. We've been running user testing sessions, beta tests, performance tests, load tests, simulated customer testing, POCs, all in an effort to create continuous feedback loop and ensure that we're ready for production and release of our first live customers. We've gotten some great feedback in the forum from users like Cray, who have really helped us tune what we're delivering to the community and to our developers to make sure that experience is awesome. But it's been a long journey to reach production for the third generation of the platform and to launch the tardigrade service. And the great thing about it is that we're already seeing rapid growth from developers and a wide range of different partners too. We haven't removed the waitlist, but we are processing new signups within 7 days. The rationale for maintaining the waitlist is that we want to make sure that developers have a great experience, especially for our initial partners and customers and those who are joining from the waitlist. We're being extremely vigilant in terms of making sure the network is balanced in terms of supply and demand. And over the next 3 to 4 weeks, we'll be closely monitoring the network to make sure that we're confident everything is operating as expected. Then we'll remove the waitlist and anyone who wants to sign up can, and they can experience the advantages of decentralized cloud storage. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the early adopters and longtime supporters who run storage nodes that make our network possible. With over 4,000 storage nodes now active, we're really happy with the progress and the growth of the network. We're seeing spectacular growth in our storage node community, but more importantly, the storage nodes that are joining are reliable and well-run with high uptime. And these nodes are remaining part of the network for a really long time. This is extremely important as to the long-term success of the project in general. Well-run nodes will contribute to a great user experience for developers, and in turn, more developers will mean more data and more bandwidth usage for the storage node operators. We're doing everything we can to make it easy and rewarding to repurpose that old hardware, excess storage capacity, and underutilized bandwidth for the network. And in addition to support for Mac, Linux, and Windows Home, we previously announced support for a number of popular NAS platforms are coming soon as well. Western Digital, QNAP, Synology, and FreeNAS, the open source NAS software, were all announced in the last quarter, and we're also rolling out support for FreeBSD. NAS hardware makes ideal storage nodes since they're always on, they have a lot of reliable storage, and usually they're already configured with compatible network settings. These platforms will be released over the next couple of weeks. For those of you who have joined the waitlist and have very patiently waited for your account to be activated, we've got good news. We made it through the entire waitlist in the run-up to production launch. If you joined the waitlist, you should have received an invitation to activate your developer account. For all the members of the waitlist, we are issuing credits for the first terabyte of data stored as a way to say thank you for your patience. You do need to register your account before the full production release in order to claim that credit, though. Just a couple of things for those of you who have an account or who register over the next coming weeks. If you haven't added a payment method, either a credit card or some storage tokens, you'll be prompted to do so. And once you do, you'll have an initial a set of account limits for your storage and bandwidth, just as you would with any storage platform. If you need more capacity for your project, you can always request an increase through our support portal. Of course, as you're developing your app, the best place to get help and provide feedback is our forum. So if you haven't joined, make sure you do. And speaking of tooling for developers, when we started on the V3 network development, we had a number of requests from developers, customers, and especially partners for great support for a wide range of platforms. Over the next few weeks, we'll be releasing and updating versions of the bindings with significant improvements to the user experience, especially around the access management controls and with full documentation. If you don't see the bindings you need, please be sure to go to our innovation portal at ideas.storj.io and post some recommendations. Of course, you can also contribute bindings and potentially earn a bounty. If you're interested, join the forum and start the conversation. A number of our bindings were built by community members, and that's really the best solution for everyone. An excellent example, check out the .NET bindings contributed by Topperdell. So we're passionate about decentralized cloud storage, and we're extremely proud of the platform we've created. We're confident when you'll try it as a storage node operator or as a developer, you'll love it too. Now I'm going to pass the mic back to Jocelyn.
Great. Thanks, John. Next, we have token governance and compliance with Catherine Johnson. Catherine Johnson is our General Counsel, Vice President of Compliance and People Ops.
Thanks, Jocelyn. So I'm going to jump right in with our quarterly token report, which we give at every quarterly town hall. This is the token report for Q4 2019. I'll start out with our long-term lockup, which was $245 million at the beginning of the period and also $245 million at the end. The reason that there's no change there and no transfers from lockup is because we're pursuing a new technical implementation of how to perform the lockup. this year, and we're reworking our approach to that currently. So stay tuned for more information on that. Next, we have SJCX conversion. You'll see that there was no activity there, and the reason is because as we had informed folks, we ended up shutting down the SJCX conversion due to lack of activity, which is what we expected. We had the converter for 2 years, converting SJCX token to Storj token. We put a call out for final conversions before shutting that down. Moving on to the operating supply, we had 38.6 million Storj tokens at the beginning of the period in operating supply. 0.4 million went for payments to our storage node operators, 1.5 million went to service provider payments, and 0.4 million went to the Storj employee salary and bonus. As you know, we offer our employees an opportunity to take some of their salary in Storj. That leaves us with an operating supply at the end of the period of 36.4 million Storj tokens, a non-circulating supply of 281.4 million tokens, a circulating supply of 143.6 million tokens, for our total storage supply unchanged of 425 million tokens.
Thanks for that report, Catherine. Moving on to time lock. Can you give us a refresher on how the time lock works, please?
To refresh on how we do lockups, we have 8 equally divided tranches that are locked on a rolling basis, with each being relocked in their respective quarters, as demonstrated by this slide. We'll provide you with an update with our new technical implementation on how to perform the lockup as that's finalized.
Great. Thanks, Catherine.
Thank you.
So we're moving to community. This is Jocelyn Matthews, the community manager at Storj. And I just wanted to share some information about what we're doing in 2020, what we're looking forward to, and what we've been doing so far. Our focus for 2020 this year is going to be a year in which the community strengthens its connection to engineering and product. JT and I are working closely alongside the rest of the community team to foster the feedback loop between the community and the company, because we all understand together that to succeed, the product needs to incorporate and elicit an active dialogue. We've experimented with different tactics to do this, and we're always continually seeking better ways to formalize the processes. Right now, each week, JT has a meeting with us, the community leads. This is intended as a way for us to efficiently communicate sentiment, pass along data that we've encountered, and also discuss trends that we're noticing. The community team also has a weekly meeting that's an internal AMA that's also engineering focused. And in this meeting, Little Skunk and Stefan Benton show the current state of the platform and talk about ongoing testing. On top of that, I have a weekly stand-up with our product designer. And in that meeting, we talk about things like the user experience. That can consist of things like video diaries, surveys that have been sent out, and other sort of UX data that's being compiled. Then I have biweekly meetings with marketing. And in marketing, we obviously talk about messaging, brand, but we also talk about things like the events that are coming up and booth training, because we want to make sure that when someone meets us in any case, that we're always equipped to give the best experience that we can. We also have twice weekly meetings on snow growth and user growth. Those are 2 separate meetings. And I'm sharing all this information with you because I think it demonstrates the ways that the community team is advocating across all these different groups in the company to put the community in the foreground. So we have some cool activities that are coming up in 2020. And one that I'm really excited about is the white paper discussion. So we have a thread in the forum where we had been discussing the possibility of doing an online study group for the white paper. And what we're going to try out is a hybrid study buddy system that is sort of like an AMA and a study group sort of combined with JT Olio. We're working out the details to figure out when is the best time to start this, because JT's calendar is slightly full at the moment, but we think over the next few weeks we can firm up some dates and details, and then I'll be posting those in the forum as they develop. Some events that we're doing in 2020 are Open Source Summit. We are there every year, and we're returning again this year, and All Things Open. We're going to be developing a webinar series with our partner InfluxDB, and that begins in February. Again, the details will be posted on the forum as they develop. And meetups have been on a little bit of a hiatus because we've been putting all of our energy and thought into production. But Now we are reopening our sponsorship batches. So if you would like sponsorship for a meetup, you can reach out to me by email, which is jocelyn@storj.io, or you can just go to the forum and start a thread and submit a request for meetup sponsorships. And then finally, we have videos and tutorials that we've begun to create that are going to be posted, and we're going to be working alongside together and looking at a high-level video demo of the platform. In the community spotlight, I'd like to give a shout out to some really great members that we have in the community. We have a lot of really great members, and it's impossible to name all of them here, but I just wanted to shine the light on a few folks who are giving great feedback, they're building great tools, and they're sparking the most important discussions that we have, to my mind. I think they're right up there. First off, Admin is great and has been helping us tremendously with testing. Topperdell is creating .NET bindings for us. Bright Silence is just one of the best members that we have in the forum. Like, just always great attitude, great thoughts, great conversations, and everyone on the team just really loves Bright Silence. Vadim, you're always starting great conversations, and we appreciate your tools expertise. And Cray, you know, you're always writing things that are so well thought out and really heartfelt, and we appreciate that about you. So thank you. We have a thread on the forum that is dedicated to the inspiration of snows, what brings them in and what keeps them around. And I just wanted to share some of the comments that we have from snows about why they're involved with storage. And I think this goes to the heart of the community, but also provides some really interesting insight to all the different facets of why people are attracted to storage. So we have feedback like people who join because they're just interested in decentralized compute and storage and expect it to play a major role. We have people coming in because they're looking to make it pay as a profitable business. People who want to help build and use the cloud storage solution and are interested in that dream of true cloud. People who are just interested in the idea of decentralization and seeing it implemented really well. People who are just interested in making a little bit of extra money off of something that they're already doing and want to rent out space in cycles. And then people who are just doing it for fun. So I think that it was just really so great to see all of these different motivations and realize that there are so many different ways that people can interact with our platform. Thanks to all of you. And if you'd like to get involved in the community further, please continue if you already are in the community. If you're not in the community, the easiest way to get involved is to make an account on the forum. And the URL for that is just forum.storj.io. You can also contribute to our GitHub. We have a mix of help wanted and good first issues with bounties available in many cases. And we're always seeking a mix of cool people. You can join the community, you can organize an event, you can volunteer, you can visit us at a booth. And if you'd like to reach out to me directly, my email is jocelyn@storj.io. And then you can always follow us on social as well. We're on Twitter and Reddit. We're going to go to live Q&A with the storage team. We have Sean Wilkinson, founder and chief strategy officer, Catherine Johnson, general counsel, Vice President of Compliance and People Ops, and JT Olio, VP of Engineering. We're back live, and it's time to answer some community questions. I hope you're ready because we have a lot of them this time around. So this first slide is 2 questions from 2 different people that were about the same thing, so I've combined them, and I'm going to send this one to Catherine Johnson. The first question has to do with our blog. So it states that the rule requires us to gather information on vendors which node operators could be considered as, that receive more than $600 in a year. If I qualify as such, where do I find the form and what do I do with it? And then the second is from a person who is also asking about the tax form W-9. And this person is not a US resident, so the form's not applicable for them. Their question is also, what should they do with it and why did they get it? I'm going to send this to Catherine Johnson. She's our general counsel and Vice President of Compliance and People Ops.
Thanks for that question, Jocelyn. Okay, so the rule regarding sending U.S. Tax Form 1099 applies to storage node operators in the United States or nodes operated by U.S. citizens. If you're not required to file taxes in the US, the rule does not apply to you and you don't need to do anything. On our blog, we have guidance on this topic, if it does apply to you, in an article titled New Guidelines for Storage Node Operators in the United States. You also should visit the IRS website, and as always, we encourage you to consult with a tax advisor on any questions you have relating to your own tax obligations.
Okay, great. Thank you. The next question, I'm also going to give this one to you, which is, what if someone uploads files that are illegal to own?
Sure. So files and metadata stored on the tardigrade platform are client-side encrypted by default. So what this means is that we don't have access to your encryption keys. Intentionally, we don't and are not able to mine data or access that you store. While that's great for privacy protection and security, it also means we can't and don't police for illegal content. We face the same challenges here that any storage platform does when their users leverage client-side encryption. In the event, however, that law enforcement becomes aware of such content, say, for example, if a person shares publicly the content they store on our network, we would comply properly, of course, with subpoenas issued by law enforcement. And as always, we comply with the laws in the jurisdictions in which we operate. Now, we recognize that there's some really terrible content out there that can be dangerous. If we were to receive legitimate law enforcement requests to cut off access to the platform, we would do so. We can't decrypt the data, but we can disable access if directed.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. So let's look at the next question, which is, when will an effective way be implemented to notify SNOWs of any change in the terms of service? They're talking about information on the dashboard or email to SNOWs. So as an example, this person is surprised that the minimum requirements were 500 gigabytes, but now what they're seeing is a minimum of 250 gigabytes of available space per storage node. So someone must have changed it at some point, but the information about the change didn't reach them as a SNOW. And of course, they can't be reading the terms of service every day.
Sure. Thanks for bringing this to our attention. I'm sorry that there was a change that didn't reach you. You'll be happy to hear, however, that we are currently updating our terms of service. These are under review and going to be rolled out soon, so you can expect to see them in the near future. They will be on our website, very clearly identified as updated.
Okay, thanks. Let's go to the next question. And this is a question for JT Olio. JT is our Vice President of Engineering. So, dear Storj Labs, you should not release a product for all people when you're not sure that it satisfies at least hundreds of people testing it. You can, but the result is known. We all saw it. We don't like it. Here's my advice for a program minimum. Number 1, delay production. Number 2, send invites for all SNOWs. Third, give 1 terabyte storage and 1 terabyte download for all period up to production for all SNOWs. And then the fourth recommendation is to collect feedback, fix, and polish troubles. How do you respond?
Yeah, this is a great point. And you'll be happy to know that these bullets are what we've implemented. In terms of our production launch, what we announced yesterday was our early access production release candidate. And release candidates are a common practice of publishing a release and getting some last feedback prior to the production launch. Our production launch will be coming shortly, but we'll be using this early access production release candidate time to collect a lot more data and a lot more feedback about what we have. You'll notice that we actually got a lot of really positive feedback after the release on Wednesday. There are obviously still issues that we need to work through, but we have been working very hard and made a lot of great progress, even just this week, to get us to a place where we are happy with the result. We have sent all invites to storage node operators. Storage node operators should be able to sign up immediately. If you are waiting for a storage node invite, please sign up again. It may have gotten lost. We are giving all people who have access to the production early access release candidate 1 terabyte of storage and 1 terabyte a month of download in early access credits for a period, for the first billing period of the production access. And so we'll be collecting feedback, fixing, and polishing any troubles. It's worth pointing out, of course, and we talked about this a little bit during the recorded bit, about that we are focusing mainly on the tardigrade user experience for this production release. And please expect to see a great deal more improvements and changes for storage node operators coming in 2020.
Thanks, JT. And thanks for all the details in your answer. So let's go to the next question. This one I'm going to pass along to Sean Wilkinson and also to JT Olio. So the question is, where's Sean's map of nodes project? Maybe you can show payment stats like you've done in previous months?
So the current payment map or node map is not available. There are some pretty significant changes from the V2 API that enabled that to V3. But right now, through the dashboard, storage node operators can see their payment, including kind of withheld amounts. So there's a lot more information in V3 for user-specific payment amounts, but not necessarily as we had in V2, which had more of a larger scope, including multiple users.
Yeah, to piggyback off that, one of the reasons why if people have seen like storagenet.info and some of these other services, Sean's map of the nodes project, a lot of these depended on the Kademlia feature that we removed as part of our production release. We're not trying to hide this information. It's just that we have not gotten to building back a new feature for that yet. There is some information that we mean to show on dashboards and need to get to it and prioritize it. There is other information. I think there's a later question that we'll talk about where we actually don't want to publish, for instance, the payout information for everybody, as that could potentially lead to harassment for some storage node operators. So there is some information that we are intentionally trying to share specifically with storage node operators through their dashboards. But again, we're really optimistic about the roadmap for 2020, and we hope that you'll see great things soon.
One thing that we have considered kind of in the future is at least bringing back some of the more geographic maps, because both internally and within our community, that's always a cool feature. Just kind of see the nodes on the network and kind of where they are. So that's something that maybe in the coming months that we might bring back.
Okay, thanks, Sean. Thanks, JT. Let's go to the next question. And this is also a JT question about 100% AWS compatibility. Will it exist? So the person who wrote this question is saying, in their opinion, it has to be properly implemented and tested before onboarding any customers, as it could result in a bad customer experience, and we don't want to risk permanently losing that customer.
This is a good question. First off, as sort of a joke answer, well, we'll never achieve 100% AWS compatibility because that's a lot of things. If you mean S3 specifically, S3, we also currently don't have 100% compatibility. And there are some corner cases and some edges that we have yet to implement. But we're prioritizing those based on user feedback and what people are looking to implement. If you have a use case that you're trying to implement, we do intend to support your use case on top of whatever would have worked on top of S3. So please let us know, and we'd be happy to make sure that we prioritize whatever features we have yet to implement. All of the basic S3 implementation functionality is all implemented 100%. There are some more advanced features like multi-part upload that are very soon next on our roadmap.
Great. And for anyone listening that wants to get to our ideas portal, it's ideas.storj.io. And you can also find it inside the community forum under the ideas and suggestions category. And you can submit it there, and your ideas can also be rated and voted on. Our product manager, Brandon, uses those very heavily in determining how he's going to prioritize things and how he's going to be creating the roadmap. Let's go to the next question. You know what? This looks like a similar question to the first one that I think JT answered really fully, which is, are you ready for production? There's only one chance to do it the right way. And of course, there will be no second chance to make a first impression as we build this network. So I think you covered that before. So let's go ahead and keep it moving. And I'm going to ask this technical question, which is it possible to upload unencrypted data to the network?
In the previous release of our, I think, alpha and beta, you were able to select what your encryption algorithm was. We had 2 encryption algorithms. We had Daniel J. Bernstein's secret box and AES 256 GCM supported. And also you could select no encryption. Because very few people want that, at this point, I don't believe the code currently supports anything other than AES 256 GCM, but it wouldn't require too much code change to support unencrypted upload if you want. Ultimately, we do not want to make that be something that someone accidentally hits. And so it will continue to be the default behavior, and it will be very evident what you're doing if you decide to disable decryption.
Okay, great. Thank you for explaining. Let's go to the next question. And this one is around snow statistics. Can you share some of your snow statistics is the question.
Yes. So we are, of course, going to be rolling out more dashboards during this year. But at least for talking about some stats, we currently have about 4,800 nodes online. We have about 2,900 tardigrade users. We have 1,000 projects and 3,400 buckets, roughly. We're really excited about the scale and the scope that we've gotten, even just with only having a wait list in terms of sign up for now. And we expect this to grow tremendously this year.
Okay, great. Let's keep it moving. This is a question about multiple storage nodes. So you can now set up more than one storage node. How about expanding existing storage nodes, storage space, and network throughput? Many snows can easily do this.
We want there to be a storage node per hard drive. And so if you have not utilized your entire hard drive yet, you're absolutely welcome to expand your storage node. One of our roadmap items for some time down the road is a way of decreasing your hard drive size, but we don't have that yet. And so just be cautious that if you increase your storage node capacity, there isn't a great way to decrease your allocation. But you can increase your storage node size. We recommend that you have one storage node per hard drive. Storage, tardigrade has built-in redundancy and erasure coding, so you don't gain much by running RAID or anything like that. And if you do gain anything by that, it's worth evaluating the resource usage and actually worth us maybe filing some tickets to make sure that our resource allocation matches exactly sort of the one hard drive failure domain to one node ID heuristic.
Okay, thanks. I'm going to mix it up and throw the next question to John Gleason. John is our Vice President of Operations. So we're going to go ahead to this question, which is some snows have channels which they feel are being underutilized. How about utilizing the bandwidth in a more effective way?
Yeah, well, I'll take this opportunity again, thank our storage node community for providing the storage and bandwidth for the network and being so dedicated and loyal all along. And I think over the course of the year of 2020, we'll get a lot more bandwidth utilization for our storage nodes. The network usage up to now has been mostly performance and load testing, along with some beta customer usage and some POCs. Those initial customers have been using the network for a number of use cases like database backups and database snapshot storage, kind of testing the water with sort of the lower risk, tried and true storage use cases. Over time, we anticipate a large number of different use cases that use higher bandwidth for our customers, particularly in the later half of the year. And we'll also continue to change the profile of our load testing and performance testing to match those emerging use cases to make sure that we're ready for those. So while the customer base is growing, we'll make sure that our storage node operators continue to be economically rewarded for their continued loyalty. And we hope to see great things as the network grows.
Okay, thank you. Next question is, now this looks like something that a few of you could answer because I know it's something we think about. So some snows have industrial class hardware, and they're talking about, for example, servers with redundant RAID. What options do these snows have? On a previous town hall, we discussed special offers for industrial snows.
Sure, let me start the answer for this one. So in the early days of the network, we're particularly optimized for storage node operators who are repurposing existing hardware and who have existing underutilized bandwidth for the storage nodes. We want a kind of a large number of highly distributed nodes in a bunch of different directions and different types. But we also recognize that we have a large amount of commercial storage node operators with a lot of storage and a lot of bandwidth to contribute. These types of operators aren't the best fit for the network, particularly early days, because there isn't maybe sufficient demand to take up someone who has 10 or 50 or 100 petabytes of storage. And a single storage node with that much data capacity available today also tends to lead to a concentration risk, where one storage node could potentially have too much data, and if they were to go offline, impact the network. The good news is we do have roadmap items specific for commercial storage node operators, and we'll be rolling out both new features and a new program later this year to take advantage of those type of operators. And of course, just with regard to the bit there about the high availability in the RAID, I think JT covered that really well.
Okay, great. Next question, and as the community manager, I can definitely attest that we get a lot of questions on this topic because it's just something that people are always looking for clarity on. So this is about graceful exit, and the person is wondering, how long will satellites prevent graceful exit on full speed?
Now, graceful exit is allowed, so users can trigger graceful exit on a storage node. Of course, the satellites are throttled for the just in general usage, just to prevent them from being overrun by a large number of transaction requests. But graceful exit is going to feature prominently in the network because it's a critical feature for us that reduces file repair, which is a function that keeps high availability for files, but it also has a potential to, again, increase network traffic unnecessarily and also drive different utilization of resources than is really optimized. So what we will see is that graceful exit will help storage node operators who want to reclaim hard drive space. And as JT mentioned, we plan on using that feature to also allow people to reclaim part of a hard drive in addition to the entire drive.
Okay, thanks. So now we have a question about bandwidth limits. Do you think bandwidth limits will impact file availability? When the bandwidth limit is reached for a node, all pieces that node is storing are effectively unreachable for the rest of the month. No more downloads to stay under the limit. If the majority of nodes set a bandwidth limit that is low enough to be reached, it might pose a problem.
So this is JT. We have an upcoming blog post to talk about some of the product research that we did around this issue. And what we found, we conducted a lot of surveys. We found that from the storage node operators that we surveyed, most of them were under the distinct opinion that we should use more of their bandwidth and not less. We should absolutely, very few of our storage node operators reported that they had limited bandwidth, that they were concerned about as of course, some storage node operators are, but a good proportion of our storage node operators wanted us to use more bandwidth. They had unlimited bandwidth. They wanted us to utilize all of it. And really the product research around that question was whether or not we should include storage node operators in helping us solve this problem or try and solve it for them by limiting the amount of access. And so this is actually sort of early. We haven't published this blog post yet, but at least initially, our plan is to remove the bandwidth limits entirely. They currently do nothing because of some of this product research. And so we actually just need to remove the bandwidth limit setting so it's not confusing. In the longer term, of course, we'll be bringing back a greater control about that. But at least for now, the next up is a blog post describing some of our product decisions around this problem, around making sure that storage node operators are able to get the best cut of large utilization. And that seems to be what storage node operators by and large want. And so we're going to lean into that and make sure that we allow storage node operators to get that bandwidth.
Okay, thanks. I'm going to throw the next question to John Gleason. And this person would like to know, are there any estimates on what kind of egress to storage ratio storage node operators can expect from early adopter customers?
Yeah, sure. So we're seeing a number of different use cases from the customer side, and the early egress to storage ratios look like they're under 20%, so in that 10 to 20% range. These are just estimates from a relatively small sample size from the users that we've actually interviewed and from the surveys that we've sent out. Actual usage is going to vary from node to node and customer to customer. And throughout the course of the year, I think as people gain more confidence and we get a broader set of not just early adopters, but mainstream users to the platform, we'll see a lot greater bandwidth utilization. And also, in advance of those expected use cases, we'll continue to vary the bandwidth utilization of our testing profiles for both performance and load testing. And the storage node operators will get the benefit of our testing and help us learn from that experience.
Great, thank you. Next question. This one has to do with GDPR, and I'm going to give it initially to John Gleason. This person says, I've been dealing with the implications of GDPR at work over the past few years and was wondering, how do you deal with the requirement of specific data processing agreements with any third party that stores or processes data for your customers? Since nodes are essentially third-party data processors, doesn't GDPR require you to have data processing agreements with all node operators? This could be a requirement for companies to be able to use the storage network for storage. John Gleason?
Sure. So I want to separate this out into sort of two categories of comment. The first one is storing data that is subject to GDPR compliance on the network as a developer. And then the second would be the company storage and the platform's actual compliance with GDPR as well. So in the current network today, we don't have processor agreements in place with storage nodes and some of the baseline requirements. And also, we don't necessarily have the technology in place to support storage of data for compliance with GDPR. But the great news is that from a roadmap perspective, we are developing both the technology components that will be required to successfully implement a GDPR compliant storage solution, as well as a program to enable compliance with a variety of regulatory regimes by leveraging storage node operators who have compliant environments with whom we can put contracts in place. And so this is going to be a fairly significant initiative combining both practical, contractual, and process implementations along with technology. But we're really excited about the capabilities coming up.
And to add on to that a little bit, we are working with outside counsel who have advised us on GDPR requirements, and we've accordingly updated our contracts to ensure that they are GDPR compliant, as well as created processes for responding to GDPR requests.
Okay, thank you, Catherine. Thank you, John. So here's the next question. This seems like an operations question to me. So John Gleason, how can one apply to be a satellite operator? If this is not currently available, do you have an ETA on when it will be?
Yeah, this is actually a really popular inbound request on the partnership form on our website. We haven't formally opened our satellite partner program yet, but we are working on it. We have a few early pilots that we are using to sort of iron out the kinks, similar to many of the other aspects of the platform. But we will be rolling out that program as soon as we're very happy and satisfied that we can make our satellite partners successful. Now, our software is open source, and of course, anyone can run the satellite software. And so if somebody wants to run a community satellite under the Storj brand, they absolutely can do that. But as far as the tardigrade branded satellites backed by the Storj SLA, those are something that we'll have to wait a little bit longer for.
Okay, thank you. Let's give the next question to JT as it's a technical question. So this one is about metrics. What performance metrics can customers expect to see in terms of requests per minute, sustained throughput, et cetera, upon production release?
It's a great question. I think probably the main thing to mention on this question is that we actually have specific rate limiting built in for each project and each customer. Because this is an early launch, we want to grow carefully, and so we're starting with low rate limits, and we'll increase them for users that request it. This is sort of having limits and increasing them when requested is sort of common cloud host practice. We're starting with 10 requests per second per project by default. And we may adjust that default up and down depending. And if you need it higher, please ask.
Okay, great. Thanks. So here's another question. Will storage capacity still be gated after production release like it currently is in order to balance supply and demand? Larger snows still have a lot of available capacity, and it would be good to know what are the limiting factors for that capacity being used, whether it's an artificial limitation to moderate data ingestion, to keep a certain threshold of nodes with sufficient capacity open, or if there are other reasons. So let me look around and see who to give this question to. I think this is a good one for Ben Golub.
Great. Well, another great question. As you know, during the various betas, we were trying very hard to keep supply and demand more or less in balance. You can imagine if we were a ride-sharing company, you wouldn't want to have too many cars on the road so the cars don't get fares, and you also wouldn't want to have too few so the customers were waiting to ride a car. It's kind of the same thing for us. We don't expect in the long run to be gating storage capacity. In fact, as John Gleason was talking about, we're working on tools to enable data center operators to manage multiple nodes. Of course, we do plan to keep in place the vetting process to make sure that nodes that receive large amounts of non-test data are well run. We're also keeping in place the controls that we have currently to make sure that pieces of data that are associated with any particular segment are stored on statistically uncorrelated nodes. But we hope that we get to the point, and certainly the early indications are good, that there is massive customer demand for use of this, and so therefore will be large demand for storage node operators, both large numbers of small ones as well as those who have sufficient amounts of external capacity they can add to the network.
Okay, thanks, Ben. Here's another question, and this one is about rankings. Will there be a public snow ranking? And if not, why?
So we don't have a public snow ranking planned. JT alluded to this earlier, that we don't want to do anything that would potentially make any of our storage node operators a target for harassment, DDoS attacks, or whatever else. And so this is one of those things that creates a reverse incentive, and the incentives are really well balanced to drive the right behaviors in the network, and we're trying to make sure that everybody has a good time.
Okay, thanks. And then I'm going to come back to you and JT for the next question, which is, will there be a possibility to announce a snow server shutdown so that the reputation won't be harmed?
Yes, we've talked a bit in our planning about having a grace period system, but we haven't built it yet. One of the things on the roadmap.
Great, thanks. Look forward to seeing it. Let's go ahead to a question about the web dashboard. So will the web dashboard be modified in a way that snows can see on the spot how much they earned? And this person is wondering about earnings based on the actual storage value.
Great question. Again, this is actually a top priority task for 2020. Obviously, storage node operators want to see what they've earned. And of course, if you're a storage node operator, you're probably familiar with held amount. We are going to do a number of different things throughout 2020 to try and improve the situation with held amount. Part of the reason why we haven't gotten this done yet is because a lot of our calculations for payments require sort of background business processes that we've only finally barely automated. And so there's been actually, believe it or not, there's kind of a lot of behind the scenes manual processes that have happened in the past with our alphas and betas to try and get the product ready to go. And so we're only barely to the point where this data is automated and is part of the system. And so we'll be rolling this out to the dashboards and to the various places shortly.
Yeah, and just to the end comment there about based on the actual storage value, it's probably worth noting that with all of our payments to storage node operators, those are basically set at the USD value for the payouts, and then there's a spot price at the time of the payment, and so anything that they would actually see in terms of earnings are pegged to USD value. So it's really abundantly clear, and over time, the values don't vary. It's just a constant, predictable set of figures.
Okay, great. I'm going to keep you for one more question here, and that also relates to the dashboard. Will it be possible to take a look at previous months in the web dashboard?
This is under consideration.
Okay. JT, I have a technical question for you, which is, what are the maximum performance that the network could reach? So, for example, user Pentium 100 ran a couple of speed tests and achieved sustained speed of 480. Could the storage network compete with such speed tests one day or even higher?
The storage network is massively partitioned and thus, kind of has the benefit of delivering greater and greater performance as the network grows. There are, of course, still things we're working on to improve our performance, as we've seen over the last week. And we'll be continuing to work on that. But the benefit of having more storage node operators is we also have more parallel bandwidth throughput, and we expect to see greater and greater throughput as the network grows.
From Sean.
Yeah, so there has been some testing specifically with my team in this, and as of a few months ago, not including the performance improvements that we made recently, we were able to achieve up to about 20 gigabits per second on very specialized kind of setup, but that was the level that we got to as of a few months ago before we did the performance improvements. So there's definitely, as JT said, a lot of room for improvements, but there's our network's architecture is really flexible and really allows us to use the benefit of a distributed and decentralized network to achieve performance that you just don't get out of more traditional cloud storage networks.
Thanks, Sean. Let's go to another question. This is about V2. So what is the status of the V2 network? If a node's restarted, it's unable to reach the bridge and shuts down after 30 restarts. Should we shut down our nodes when we encounter this or wait for a fix?
If you checked into the forum yesterday, you may have seen a photo of our in-company celebration of the ceremonial final shutdown of V2. We had a party with champagne yesterday. V2 were very grateful for where it got us, and all of the storage node operators and former farmers that joined us with V2. But as of yesterday, V2 is officially shut down. We'll be doing a final round of payments, and that's the end.
You, John Gleason, you look like you want to say something.
I do. I always want to say something. Yeah, I want to reiterate what JT said. We're really grateful to the people who ran the V2 network, and that helped us learn so much that has driven the successful deployment of V3. And now that your V2 node is done, please download the software and join V3. We're excited to have V3 grow and be as successful as V2 was in terms of helping our company grow. But I think this is really the best possible result for all the customers who migrated successfully, and all the customers will be onboarding in the future.
Yeah, it was a very, very interesting and somber moment, kind of shutting down V2. As JT said, it kind of got us here to where we are today. But it's a big transition point, both for storage, the company, and the community. And we're moving on to V3 and brighter days ahead.
Not up. Let's go to the next question. This one is a technical question, and the person asks, will there be, or is there maybe already, some kind of technology in place which profiles the end customer's access to files and refragments the storage network in a way that nodes with faster internet access will get files which are requested more frequently, and nodes which have in relation more storage per uplink will get more files, but where the average file is accessed less frequently?
So this is a great question, and I think really sort of indicative of the type of future potential that our network already has built in. We have initially, our initial customers that have approached us are currently focused on sort of low frequency use cases, and that's what we've prioritized. But going forward, we have a number of plans that we are, again, attempting to prioritize against all the other priorities with our finite dev team. To make sure that we're able to adequately address both making sure that we balance traffic to node operators that have high bandwidth versus low bandwidth, making sure that we balance files across more nodes when files are heavily accessed so that we spread the wealth, as it were, across more storage node operators when a file is in a heavy demand, that we're able to actually divvy up data in such a way that storage node operators with lower bandwidth don't miss out on highly frequently accessed files, and that they're part of the process too. Obviously, higher bandwidth nodes are going to be able to serve more data, but we want to make sure that things are balanced. And so we actually have a couple of really exciting plans that some of our engineers have come up with over the last couple of months that we plan on taking a look at this next year.
That's really exciting. Thank you. Here's another technical question. Are we going to get a GUI client which uses the uplink rather than using an existing S3 GUI with the gateway? JT?
This is a great opportunity, again, to plug the ideas portal in terms of being able to submit ideas and voting. This is yet again another great idea that we need to prioritize based on your feedback and figure out when we're going to do it.
Okay. Oh, looks like John Gleason.
Oh, I think the next one's going to me.
Yes, the next one is going to be you. So let's go ahead to that question. Will FileZilla be adding support for V3? If so, when?
Absolutely. So we are actively working on that right now. And we'll be rolling that out with the production release very shortly. But at this point, I think the biggest thing to note here is that FileZilla has been one of our earliest partners and our biggest supporters, and we're really excited to have FileZilla, the first real GUI app on our application. And it's just going to be fantastic to see. But yeah, we really appreciate everything that Tim and Roberto have done for us over the years, and we look forward to a great partnership with them in 2020.
Great, thank you. Okay, so let's give this next question to JT. JT, this is an engineering question. How do you plan to handle situations when a file stored on storage is so popular that the 80 nodes storing it do not have enough bandwidth?
It's great. And this dovetails into two previous questions that we've talked about. One question that we talked about was just sort of what do we do about bandwidth throttling on storage nodes? We talked a little bit about how what we've found from storage node operators in terms of surveys and feedback is that they want to be part of the solution here, have unlimited bandwidth, and want us to use it. And so that's certainly one part of this equation. The other part of the equation, of course, is what we were just previously talking about better load balancing, scaling files to higher bandwidth availability nodes, and also across more nodes. The way that our system is architected with Reed-Solomon erasure coding allows us to very easily and trivially encode files to more locations and then be able to load balance across those locations. This is something we're really excited about implementing in the coming milestones that we have over the next couple months and years.
Okay, thank you. And let's go to one more question. You claim tardigrade to be 20% faster than your competition. My real world results differ. This person provided a post, which was Amazon S3 versus tardigrade on the community forum. So in their example, Amazon is 100 times faster in deleting a single 10 gigabyte file compared to tardigrade. Transfers are also much slower, by which they mean Amazon is 14 times faster when uploading one 10 gigabyte file on a server with decent specs. Are we going live with this performance?
This is a good and hard question. There's a couple of aspects to answer about this. The first part is, okay, when we talked about launch gates, we talked about how our target for production was 20% faster than S3. And ultimately, that was an admirable goal that we felt was achievable. And we are still shooting to hit that goal. But the question is, do we delay launch of our production product for all of our users because we haven't hit that goal? And what we've found in talking with our customers is that most of our customers actually find that our performance is already adequate. And so this has been kind of a hard discussion internally in terms of making, figuring out, are we going to stick with this and continue to keep working or what? And if, you've done software engineering, it is always some of the hardest problems are, making things faster. And so one of the things that we want to do about that launch gate is continue to work towards that goal, but we are launching without having hit better than on par. And I think Sean and Ben want to add something to that.
Yeah, so one thing that I'll add to that is that if you track the issues in the forum, we've made actually pretty significant improvements in terms of that performance just in the past couple of days. And specifically within the organization, we actually have a whole team now devoted to improving the performance of the storage network. So there's been, again, a lot of short-term fixes that have had a big impact on performance, and we'll continue to make those over the coming days and weeks.
Yeah, this is Ben. I just want to add, pile on here maybe. So we actually have been conducting fairly significant batteries of performance tests. Initially, our focus was on both upload and download speeds, and we measured sort of, uploading, 500 times, files of various different sizes and compared our results to Amazon, both for sort of the median as well as for the various percentiles. And what we ended up finding were a few encouraging things. We found that for the most part, we were on par with Amazon. In a few cases, we were slower from certain locations. In some cases, we were faster. We also found really encouragingly to ourselves that there was very little difference between our median performance and our 95th percentile performance. And that speaks to the value of the distributed nature of the system. Clearly, you can always get better. We're also engaging with companies to do a much more comprehensive battery of performance tests. So not just simple upload and download, but really sort of a full sort of cost bench study. But again, we feel very confident that the level of performance that we have right now is adequate or better than we need for going into production, but we can always get better.
And to go back to this, the sort of the details about specifically deleting, and to Ben's comment of that we were originally measuring. You can't improve what you don't measure. And for a long time, initially, we started off when we first started performance testing, we were testing uploads and downloads exclusively. And so only recently we've added deletion and some of the other operations in terms of performance. And so you can kind of see that in the sense that we are a little bit behind schedule in terms of deletion performance relative to upload and download throughput. That said, we've also found a great deal of variety in terms of where you are and where the S3 bucket you're comparing to is, and where the storage satellite, the tardigrade satellite that you're using is. And so when we've done our performance tests, we've specifically chosen different locations. Our US satellite is in Iowa, and S3 is commonly used out of Virginia. The Amazon US East 1 is in Virginia. And so we've tried to do performance testing both in terms of from Virginia to Iowa, from Iowa to Virginia. We found that the storage network is very dependent on latency metrics. And if you are connecting to a satellite that's very far away from you, you are going to get slower performance than if you're connecting to a satellite nearby. The storage nodes, going back to what Ben said about kind of our variability, because we have such a wide variety of storage nodes to choose from, we can reduce our tail latency very significantly. And so we have really tight performance around sort of the longer term, the sort of the distribution of the metrics. We're very consistent in terms of our performance. And so it is true, I guess, to answer this specific questioner, I'm not surprised if there are certainly circumstances where we have more work to do relative to others, but we have also spent a lot of time doing these performance metrics from a variety of different data center locations to a variety of different data center locations. And we found that in most cases, we are currently on par. We're not at 20%, but we will continue to work to get there.
Okay, thank you. So just a reminder, we've come to the end of our pre-collected questions now. Just a reminder to anybody who's listening, if you do want to get involved with storage or with our code base, you can contribute to our GitHub. And the GitHub is github.com/storage. And we're always looking for new people to join the community. We have a lot of different ways that you can be involved. You can also feel free to reach out to me directly. My personal email, or not my personal email, my direct work email is jocelyn@storj.io. And you can follow us on social. We're on Twitter and Reddit. So thank you, but now we want to move ahead to some of the community questions that have come in during the broadcast. So I'm going to throw this question over to, let's see who's a good one for this question. This is a technical question for JT. Do you plan to wipe old data to ensure that old nodes are profitable in the future? Right now, it seems that my old node is stuck storing junk data, which will never be requested. This is just feedback. I do believe in storage, and I think you do really great work.
Thank you. Thank you for the vote of confidence. So right now, a lot of our data is test data and stress testing and performance testing data. And so the current data usage profile pattern doesn't really match exactly what it matches as close as we could sort of synthesize in terms of what we expect users to look like initially. But the longer term plan is that we'll be clearing out this test data. We'll be clearing out this stress testing data as we continue to get more users, and so that will certainly help. A lot of the data that has been on the network has been, to some degree, part of some experiments that we've done that have left some garbage. And so, of course, the garbage collection process has only recently started, and so that will be improving. Again, as we pointed out, we're working on projects to rebalance data across the network. We do want to make it be the case that our pricing model, our technology, and all of the economic incentives match to make sure that the best thing for a storage node operator to do is store data and serve it when requested. And so obviously data will have different access patterns, but we want to make sure that storage node operators that store data reliably for us are the most profitable way to run a storage node.
Great, thanks. So we have a little bit more time remaining. We're actually not going to be able to get to all of the questions that have come in live. So I just want to get in as many as we can. And then I think what we can do is take the rest of them and address them in an AMA and also some upcoming blog posts, because we do want to make sure that everybody is heard, but we're running out of time. So I'm going to move quickly, and I'd like it if people could give sort of quick answers so that we can get through as many as possible. Does that sound good? Okay, so this person wants to know, what's the process to become a satellite?
So if you want to run a satellite, we encourage you to go check out the GitHub repository with the for the satellite class, peer class, and give it a try. Over the course of this year, we'll be evaluating candidates for our satellite program and rolling that out. But at the current time, we don't have a program for tardigrade satellites. Community satellites, of course, are welcome to run the open source software.
Great, thank you. Next question. I'm happy with the pay so far from storage as a SNO. A quicker payment would always be an appreciated change. As for users, I've heard bandwidth can be a bit of an issue, but I'm sure that will be addressed. So this person is mainly asking about the payouts process for SNOs.
We just had a number of planning meetings this week. One of the things that we're excited to have spent some time thinking about is a process where we can put more of the control about receiving your payout in the hands of the storage node operator. So we have a couple of different drafts that we're talking about that possible process, but hopefully you'll be seeing more of this in 2020.
Okay. Next question in this speed round. Do you plan additional equity fundraising? Bengala, yes.
Yes. So we obviously can't pre-announce, but right now we're very happy with our treasury position. We have a large amount of cash and other resources that will enable us to grow for a very long period of time without raising additional capital. But we also think that what we have is a very exciting potential. And so if we are going to be going towards an equity raise, then we'll sort of, provide information about that in the normal course of business.
Okay, thanks. Great answer. Next question, JG. John Gleason. I've missed what the actual and foreseen demand from the customers on storage. So this person is wondering, it looks like they want a forward-looking statement. What's the actual and foreseen demand from customers?
So it's hard for us to say what people will actually do, but we're really excited by what we're seeing so far. There's been a lot of interest. The response to people registering from the wait list and creating accounts has been fantastic. And so I can't say exactly what it will be, but I think the future is very bright for storage, and we're excited at what's coming.
Okay, great, thanks. JT, technical question. Do you support SMB 3.0 over one connection?
If by SMB 3.0 you mean the Samba file sharing protocol, We have some internal tooling that we've been working on. There's, I think, 2 different projects that we've started on. They're not really ready to be shared yet, and they currently aren't highly prioritized. But supporting file access use cases is something that we are interested in pursuing. If you are interested in contributing to that project, please reach out to us on either the forum or on our GitHub, and perhaps you can be responsible for adding that functionality.
Okay. You know what? Because we are about to close out and there are more questions than we have time to answer in this particular session, I think what I'm going to do is direct the rest of the questions to technical ones that we have and get through as many of those as we can. So we're going to give another 2 questions to JT, and then we're going to be saying farewell until the next town hall. Does that sound, are you ready for it? Okay.
I'm ready.
All right, then. So this person is wondering about, let's see here. Will there be more network tests during the early production period?
Sure. I think our onboarding customers will probably be doing their own tests.
And then they're wondering if the data will be purged when going to production.
In the time that we did our change from our alpha to our beta, we had a network wipe. That was the last network wipe. We're not planning on resetting any data. Everything going forward will be maintained.
Okay, and then the last question that we're going to do for today is about Storj Labs and what we're built on regarding Ethereum. So are the smart contracts open sourced?
Sean can take that one.
The answer is yes.
The answer is yes. Thank you for, I said a short answer. Thank you so much. Okay, we want to say thank you to everybody, but before we sign off, we need to have the traditional joke from Sean Wilkinson. Have you got one?
Oh boy, you're gonna have to give me.
You're gonna need to get closer to the mic, sir.
A second here.
Okay.
But I do have a good joke. I just have to find my notes.
Your joke is in your notes?
Yes, I had to write it down. It was just so good. So obviously we need a good storage-specific joke. So how much space will Brexit free up in the EU?
I don't know, Sean. How much space will Brexit free up in the EU?
1 GB.
Oh.
Well done.
Well done. Thank you, Sean.
You're welcome.
And thank you to the community. We appreciate you so much. And again, like we tried to get through as many of your questions as possible. Please come find us in the forum. And if you're not already, start keeping up with our blog, because we have a lot of really fantastic information there that is exactly what people want to know. And it's collected and organized and written fantastically. So you can always find the information that you need from us online, and you can always reach out to us at ask@storj.io. So until the next town hall, thank you so much. We appreciate you. Goodbye.